We have just completed Daredevil, Born Again, or Born a little bit later, I guess it should be called, episode 3.
Yeah, for sure.
And whoa, that would have had quite the ending. We got a lot of comments in the queue. We got guests coming later, but what are your first reactions to this episode, Tim?
It was a little slower. Some of the stuff that we had heard previously about it being a courtroom drama, I'm hoping that was kind of just limited to this episode, but this episode was very much that. So we already have an acquittal, though. So hopefully the courtroom stuff, this was as much of it as we need to see. A lot of slower pacing, some really interesting wrinkles of information, though. A lot of interesting dynamic with Fisk, who's still very much involved in this whole thing, and a lot of other characters. And then, of course, the big ending there where we saw Frank very briefly. So that's something that I think we all were expecting at some point. We just didn't know when we were going to get it. So here you go.
I mean, my first thing based on it is that was not Frank. That is very clearly not. Jess was like, "Oh, well, I don't like Frank anymore." My wife, when it was over, I was like, "That was absolutely not Frank," because we saw another one of the cops giving.
That's what I was wondering. They're using the skull as kind of like their little gang thing. So I'm wondering what that's all about. Is it going to be this thing where the skull is kind of this cop network, this underground cop network of, I don't know, something's up there. But yeah, when we saw the skull on the chest, it's very clear that they wanted us to think that was Frank. So something's going on there. So,
I'm not taking that bait. I mean, we did see the skull tattoo on the neck in the courtroom when they were.
It was a wrist before, right? Like it was a wrist on the other guy.
Yeah, it was a wrist on the other guy.
And then we saw it. He can't testify. The guy had the skull tattoo. So yeah, a lot of possibilities there. Very interesting theory you've got, though. It's not Frank, because here's the thing, Dan. Frank kills everybody. That's like the rule in Marvel, is that Frank kills everybody. So if somebody gets killed and it's Frank, I'm not surprised. But interesting
Frank,
theory, though.
By and large, has a code, and Frank kills criminals. He kills people that he considers criminals, murderers and such. And I do know that the Punisher was introduced as a Spider-Man villain who took a contract to kill Spider-Man, but almost immediately that didn't fit in with his character at all, because I guess he read too many J. Jonah Jameson editorials when he went after Spider-Man, because he doesn't go after vigilantes, because those aren't the kind of criminals that he's out to kill.
And especially when the implication here was that Fisk paid him. Frank doesn't do this for money. Okay.
Right.
He's never been the guy that does this for money. So that's definitely something to consider. Hey, we've got a comment down here about it. I don't know if you see this here.
Let's get into some of the comments, but I just had to say, and then the other thing, I don't know. I feel like we might get, I don't know if we're going to get any Daredevil at this point. So anyway, Thug Dog, I despise the BB report. Here's what I'm going to say about the BB report. And you lucked out last week. I don't know how you did it. You had a magic thing where you hit play at the exact right moment, and you didn't have to sit through any of those commercials. But man, did he sell some commercials, man. It is so
they did, man. They pushed hard on this one. Yeah. They pushed really hard on this one.
Just got done with a commercial, and then here's another commercial. But the BB reports feel like commercial breaks. You got a little symbol in the episode 1 for a minute. I got up to go get a snack because I thought it was a commercial.
And do you remember in the original Sam Raimi Spider-Man when they did the man on the street interview type stuff? I think that's what they're going for, is what people think about the vigilantes from the perspective of, average on the street Joe kind of people. But it's just not, I don't think it's landing that way. It doesn't feel like it's landing that way.
Those who watch the commercials know that Dan will be running out immediately to play Brave New World at Topgolf. No, I have no. Dan.
That's an excellent comment.
Hey, Dan might. And now I sold these things for probably 4 years throughout my career, and never ever considered buying one because I like to buy American brands. But Dan might buy a Nissan. Because they got Call Me the Breeze in the Nissan commercials, and if you're playing the Skinner, then Dan's ready. He's going to buy whatever you're selling. So I might have to buy an Armada, but I am not going to Topgolf. I don't like golf, and I don't like Brave New World. So
I know they were like, you can play it for free, and I'm like, I know why you can play it for free, but anyway, it's okay. So Anyway.
Like, this is taking up floor space. What are we going to do? But anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
The rumors, Barry Allen is slow. The rumors of it being a legal procedural are more correct than I was hoping. Yeah.
I said, I'm really hoping that was just limited to this episode. And it might be just because of the White Tiger thing. If we get 2 or 3 more of these trials, this could be a long series, man. The main publicized and billed antagonist has still not been shown to us 3 episodes in, okay? Other than that brief little thing in the book signing line. All right. We still have not seen Muse, which is really who they were pumping up. But it feels like the Cop Network is like more.
That's the
like
main
who
thing
they're trying to push.
Yeah. Frank is going to be here.
It's like a Punisher. It's like a Punisher like network thing. And there was something like that in the comics, if I'm not mistaken. Right.
Yeah.
There was something like that in the comics. But ultimately, this is not like. I hate group villains. Like it's one of my big pet peeves is when we do group villains. But group villains on top of when we're trying to push in other villains, it just is. It's just crazy to me. So yeah.
Hail Hydra, Tim. Hail Hydra. Group villains can work.
They can work. No, they can. They can.
Yeah.
It feels like we've already done it in the MCU quite a few times. You know, we did it with the Tracksuit Mafia. We did it with Hydra. We did it with the Flag Smashers. I mean, it's been something that they beat to death already. I just feel like the group villain is something they don't need to do.
So here was my first theory when I saw faux Frank at the end of this episode, is that Frank is coming to kill cops for stealing his shtick. He's going to get this in line. He's going to be murdering these people like crazy. But now, having had more of a moment to reflect on episode 3, I think Frank is going to retain Matt to prosecute these cops for trademark infringement. I think that's actually have like 4 or 5 episodes.
That would be very on point for Disney, right? That would be very on point for Disney. So yeah,
exactly. You could use that skull. We don't like you. Can't buy our merch. You're bad.
I'm going to give a speech. I'm one of the most bad to the bone characters of all time, but I'm going to give a speech. That's what I'm going to do because this is Disney.
That's
so,
what Frank,
anyway.
Frank is going to give a speech and prosecute cops for trademark infringement. That is going to be the Punisher thing.
Yeah.
He's going to be
the Cop Network.
The Cop Network appears to be the most sinister villain so far. And you were mentioning Muse, and I don't know what we got in the comics and how he was supposed to be a big deal. How much ink and posts and discussion did you hear in the lead up to this about White Tiger?
None.
White Tiger was supposed to be like, I had seen photos, I had heard talk, I had heard like, oh, White Tiger. We didn't get White Tiger doing any White Tigering. He put on his costume, walked down the street, and got murked.
Got shot in the head. Yeah.
The hunt of the White Tigering that we saw. Oh wait, we saw a convenience store security camera footage,
and we heard the escapades of the White Tiger through the courtroom drama. We heard what he has done.
Courtroom drama.
But that is the most boring way to explain the vigilante. So yeah, I'm not in for that so far.
Well, this goes back to what Bonebridger is always talking about. The Marvel writers are addicted to telling and not showing. That is their plan. They always tell, they never show. And in a visual medium, that is not what you should be doing. And what I'm trying to figure out is, how did White Tiger accomplish all these escapades? And what is wrong with that amulet that it's that easy? Like, how did he do this for years and save all of these people when any random dude in the street could see this dude in the white jumpsuit and be like, oh yeah, that's a vigilante, and just walk up right behind him and murk him? Like, it's not hard. It was not hard. I mean, if it was that easy to kill Daredevil or Spider-Man, they would be dead day one. Like day one, walk out of the street in the costume, dead that afternoon. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
But no, he had all these testimonials in the courtroom. I was like, how did he accomplish any of that? This dude just walks down the street and gets murked, but whatever. Vanessa as a mob boss is something I don't buy at all. And the therapy sessions are just weird. And who goes to a therapist's office? I mean, I don't know how Mother Coral is running her psychiatric office, but they usually run a pretty tight ship because they're charging for every hour that somebody's in this office. Who dedicates their office to have their clients have a little 15, 20-minute pre-argument before they step in?
First of all, the thing about Vanessa not being a great mob boss, that I agree with that 1,000%. First of all, as an actress, I don't think that she has those chops. There are actresses that I have seen step in and take the lead of the family role and do a very good job at being, Mother Corleone. She is not one of them. She has not sold me on it one iota that anybody would listen to her at all. Okay. And I know that she's Fisk's wife, and that brings its own level of gravitas. I get all of that. Okay. But as an actress, she just does not come across as anybody that has that level of confidence in herself with me. And I just don't think that it's realistic at all. I don't buy that. I feel like it was a big swing and a miss on the story to have her be in charge of the family. It's something that should have been, it's to have her in charge of the mob scene in New York is just something that it just doesn't make any sense.
And I know there's going to be some like 17-year-old or 22-year-old Zennial or whatever they call themselves coming on here to tell us that Vanessa as the mob boss of New York is comic book accurate because Disney sometime in the last 5 years.
I'm not saying they shouldn't have done it. I'm just saying this actress is not delivering it. There's just no way. And
I don't buy it for the character. I mean, the character as established, as I grew up with reading Daredevil and Spider-Man comics, is Vanessa at first had no idea what the Kingpin did and then found out. And I mean, she's constantly leaving him over it. He's constantly pretending to reform and she comes back or whatever. But Vanessa has never been in on the crime. That's not the story that she's also the mob boss. That's just not.
I mean, Fisk is always in charge. Let's just call it, even when he's the mayor, he's always in charge, as we just saw. And this idea that she's the one that's giving the orders because he doesn't have time to, because he's the mayor, I don't really like that. I mean, Fisk is the one in charge. We all know he's the one in charge. He's always been the one in charge. I don't know. It's a weird angle. And then yes, the therapy sessions I absolutely hate. I think that it's the only tie-in that they have to Matt is the fact that his girlfriend is their therapist. It's the weirdest thing, man. I don't get that, but
it just the whole cucked Kingpin. I'm just not, constantly talking about Adam and you don't try the affair and having to sit in this therapy and she's taking over the mob. None of that is working for me. Like Vincent D'Onofrio is still like killing it as Kingpin because really at the end of the day, I feel like he's going to kill everyone. I get that dread of menace. Like when he looks at Vanessa, it's like you're getting dangerously close to being someone I can't trust.
Yeah, exactly.
That at least helps it. But I feel like these writers are going to make him lose to her somehow. That's what I'm afraid of,
Me too.
And I don't know. And Marvel,
because he has already lost to a 19-year-old girl, Dan. I mean, and then a 25-year-old girl shot him in the face. So the like 50-year-old girl, that's the next step of the one that actually is going to kill him.
That's the next step of total immunity. And she won't even have a giant taser to get him with or anything. No, she'll just outmaneuver him, which is the absolute like being a shifty, like making moves.
She'll like poison him or something. She'll like do something really boring and stupid.
Yeah. So Hector's actor is fantastic, but the pacing of this episode was super slow. Hector and the White Tiger and the way this guy played the character, I feel like there was all kinds of potential there.
There was.
We could have followed him. Like if Matt just wants to hang around and have a courtroom drama, we could at least have White Tiger adventures where he's out fighting crime. What's that?
You want to make a bet?
What?
Okay. I know that you said this wasn't Frank, right? What if what we saw was not actually the White Tiger, but someone who is inspired by the White Tiger that got murdered? I'm just throwing that out there.
Not Hector, then that is just okay. So far, we're getting cliffhangers, right? That make you look forward to next week. But they already left us on a cliffhanger last week. Matt alone in an apartment with what we both swore were 2 dead cops. We were absolutely sure he had killed one, if not both of those cops, and he was going to be in heap big trouble.
You'd be surprised what you can live through, but I don't know how anybody lives through that. I don't.
When somebody takes you over their shoulder and slams you into the ground onto your head and your head bends in a violent manner and a loud cracking sound is heard, I always just take that to feel like
he absolutely cracked that dude's skull like 4 times against the refrigerator, right? I mean, it was like
Yeah.
there's no way anybody survives that. So Travis is hopping in here with us.
All right, we got Travis here. Hi, Travis.
Hey,
We
guys.
jumped right in. We're venting about last week's false cliffhanger. Like, we were totally convinced that Matt had killed those guys, or at least grievously wounded them, but like he was going to get caught.
Yeah, and then they show back up.
He just must have just walked out of the apartment, and those dudes were fine. And like
they just woke up and they were like, "Oh man, that was rough."
We were 10 minutes into this episode before they even talked about it, right? I mean,
obviously, Daredevil has learned to hold back a little bit and not kill everybody.
Yeah,
there's some self-control.
Yeah. So, but then the reason we got on that is Tim had a theory about how we could have another false cliffhanger, and that wasn't Hector at the end of the episode.
Yeah, and Dan's thrown out the idea this probably was not Frank at the end either. So we don't know kind of what you were thinking about all that, but go ahead and hit us with it, Travis. What do you think?
Yeah, it's hard for me to believe that that's Frank Castle, and I think they've led us to believe that with all the kind of bad police officers out there with the tattoos and stuff.
Yeah,
the Punisher tattoos, and then you saw like the big someone had painted on a wall with the Punisher saying so.
It said triggered.
Triggered. It leads you to believe that. I don't know. It seems like they're setting us up to think that's the Punisher, but it's not. That's just my opinion.
We were talking about Frank doesn't do this for money, and the implication there was that Fisk paid him to kill Hector, which is
right.
Yeah,
you don't pay Frank to kill anybody. Frank just kills who Frank wants to kill. Now Frank does kill everybody. Let's make that everybody that dies in the comic books. There's like a 50% chance that it's Frank that killed them.
So where are we setting the line? The probability that by the end of the series, Frank looks at one of these cops and says, "I'm not wearing hockey pants." Come on. And will that be awesome or really, really awesome when Frank says he's not wearing hockey pants?
But he's got to say it in the Christian Bale voice or it doesn't count. Okay.
That's right.
Then we would establish that The Dark Knight is actually a movie that people watch in the MCU. Like,
We're going to get so many people in the comments that are confused. It's crazy.
Dude, if you're watching this and you don't catch the hockey pants reference, then I don't know why you're watching this. Travis, we were talking about like that was the White Tiger. That is total wasted potential. The actor was good. The character was good.
The actor was great.
Yeah, I'm with you. I really hope that it was a fake White Tiger to try to lure out some of the evil that's surrounding that case. But
I think that little story at the beginning about the frogs, it was a dumb little story about frogs, but he delivered it really well, very emotional. He's a great actor, and I hate that that's how he was wasted. Essentially, in 2 episodes, he's gone. You know what I mean? He was in episode 2, and now he's in episode 3. He's gone. Well, so I would hate that if that was the real White Tiger.
I feel like that might play into my worst case prediction for the series from last week, because if you go back to the trial, in the galley, in the audience was his wife and his niece. So again, every Marvel project, every series, especially every series on Disney Plus, has to give us
someone the legacy.
We have to have a young Avenger. There must be a young Avenger. You have to have Wiccan. You have to have Scar. You have to have
the amulet still exists. Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
The amulet still exists.
That's right.
And there's a female White Tiger. I mean,
yes, that's the one I was familiar with. That's the one I was familiar with. I was not even familiar with this one.
People know her from the Spider-Man cartoon, the Ultimate Spider-Man cartoon, and she is young. I believe she is the niece. I knew she was related to Hector in some way, so I believe she is the niece. So we had the niece in the courtroom. The amulet exists. Hector is dead. By the end of the series, we were going to have another Young Avenger because, of course, everybody just can't wait for Young Avengers. Are you guys stoked for Young Avengers? Like, you're going to be there.
Goodness gracious, man! This is going to be the fact that they're still trying to shove this heap of garbage down our throats after all of the failed attempts. We had the post credit where we had Ms. Marvel and Kate Bishop talking to each other. I forget which post credit that was. But the Marvels, maybe, I don't know. But anyway, there was a post credit where they were talking to each other about joining a team and doing the Young Avengers, and there was like no legs for it. Nobody wanted it.
Young Avengers is not Teen Titans or Titans. Those characters have had a long history of being popular, independent of the older DC characters. Young Avengers was Marvel's attempt to do that, and they have never been successful with it. They do not have a group that has a built-in fan base. They're not going to draw anybody with that. But anyway, Fisk using BB as a mouthpiece is interesting. You would think there are bigger avenues to get your message out.
And they mentioned that, right? They said, we've got the time. So what do we need this girl for, right?
I'm mad at that Times line because that was a perfect moment to really immerse you in Marvel and be like, we've got people at the Bugle.
Yeah, exactly. You know what, Dan? I didn't even think about that, and you are dead on. We've got people at the Bugle. Would have been amazing right there. That's perfect. That would have been, and they've already introduced J. Jonah Jameson as like a podcaster. So it would have been perfect. You know what I mean? Right. It would have been. Let's get J. Jonah Jameson on here. You know?
Yeah. Shoot, man. I mean, was it J.K. Simmons after?
J.K. Simmons. Yeah.
After Red One, I mean, that was not the hit it was supposed to be. He's probably sitting around waiting for a call too, looking for things to do. So,
yeah.
I don't know.
He's living off of Invincible right now, but
I wonder if they're trying
to another not so subtle nod at current events.
Yeah,
that you're going with the podcasters. I mean, the internet personalities, and that they could be manipulated, and trying to tell the audience to trust legacy media. I feel like it might have been an ad for ABC News that Disney baked into there, trying to tell you not to trust Joe Rogan or something like that. Basically, is what they're trying to do.
We talked about that last week. Yeah, how this was very Trumpian in tone, and it kind of felt that way. So yeah. Go ahead, Travis. I know you had something.
I was just thinking what you guys thought. I mean, I know Fisk was the reason that her uncle died. I mean, he killed her uncle. And so I wonder if they're trying to make us feel or lead us to believe that Fisk is he's changed now. And so maybe they're trying to lead us to believe that he's going to bring in this niece of this guy that he's killed and use her in some way. I feel like there's some kind of ulterior motive there that they're going to bring in.
It's very interesting.
In the show.
It's very interesting.
She has to be carrying some kind of ulterior motive, because if she's like, okay, she's Ben Urrich's niece, and he is in the Daredevil series, was a very sharp reporter, very on point.
No, hold on. I did not know this. This is supposed to be Ben's niece.
Yes, this is Ben's niece. They talked about it when she was sitting there with Fisk when she came to interview him. He's like, I knew your uncle.
I completely missed that. So this is Ben's niece that runs the BB report.
How many
this just got colossally stupider than I thought it was. I'm sorry. I cannot buy into this. I can't. This is ridiculous.
It's a weird move for sure.
Yeah. For those who don't know, Ben is a long-standing character
in Daredevil. From
Spider-Man and Daredevil. He works at the Bugle. He's one of the best reporters out
like
there.
An investigative reporter.
Yeah. And it was shocking in the Daredevil show when he was
he died in season 1. Season 1.
Because he's been in the comics for 30, 40 years?
And he's connected to all those characters, like you mentioned. So when he died, it was like, what?
Yeah.
I know.
It was a real just shocker, which is like, sometimes they can change things from the comics in a good way by really, I mean, and you feel bad because you like to see more Ben, but also you're like, oh, wow, they can surprise me and do it well. They haven't done that in a long time. But
since about that series, they haven't done it in a long time.
But again, you would think that Ben's niece would be more on the ball than to be sucked in with a con job by Wilson Fisk. You would hope that she's trying to do some investigative and expose him for having killed her uncle or something. Yeah.
And I feel like she kind of was trying there, like, to kind of throw a little shade at the angles that he was trying to come at. Like, he was acquitted by a jury of his peers and all this kind of stuff. But I don't know. I feel like now knowing that that's Ben's niece, I despise that whole connection. That's something that makes no sense to me. Why would she do it? I mean, why would she? It's well documented. He's the one that killed Ben, right? I mean,
the angle is like, I feel like she's trying to get close to try to expose him, but also I feel like that should be obvious to the Kingpin. Like, he should see that coming a mile away. So
she's manipulating the dude who she clearly has zero interest in order to get in with the Kingpin, and he knows that. And so it's just like, the whole thing is just weird. And now that I know it's Ben's niece, it makes zero sense. It makes zero sense. When it was just some aggressive little podcaster, I was like, okay, she's just trying to get ahead. But now that I know it's Ben's niece, it makes zero sense.
So, I am the Knight says, of course it was Frank. Frank kills everyone, but I have to disagree. That was absolutely 100% not Frank.
Frank does kill everybody, but he kills them when he wants to kill them. So anyway,
remind me when we left the old Netflix series, Frank's kind of retired. I mean, he retired multiple times, but he's kind of like not doing that right now, right?
Yeah,
like
he's
stepped away.
Definitely not doing this at the moment. So
right.
Yeah.
I don't think
now,
so.
but from the Kingpin's little acceptance speech, I would take it that he hasn't done it 0 times either. Like
True.
Maybe the Punisher has reared his head recently a time or two and stepped in, or maybe it's not the Punisher as we're just seeing here. So because all he said was a vigilante with a skull on his chest. So
where are we at on the
know.
bloody knuckles, guys? Does Fisk have Adam locked away in a basement somewhere and he just beats the crap out of him when he's feeling angsty? I mean, is that what's going on? They're staying bloody. So maybe, right? I mean, it's got to be that he's got Adam locked up in a gimp suit. He pulls him out, he beats him, he puts him back in the box. He keeps him alive so he could beat on him some more, right? I mean, do we think that's what's happening? I don't know. That's my theory.
I don't know. I think that Fisk is who Fisk is, and he can't change who he is. Yes, I think that the Adam thing is that it's really convenient that we have not seen Adam because I think that Adam is attached to some cinder blocks in the bottom of the river.
The cinematography there was really good, though. How it changed over to
from him
Murdoch
to Matt. That was really good.
So Jefferson Hatter says a lot of people forget the Punisher cop group from the comics. So there was probably a storyline.
There was a storyline in the comics, and I remember it vaguely. But I don't once again, these group villains are not really something that interests me. So typically that's not a run I would have read over and over again. So, but I do remember it very briefly.
And honestly, the idea, I mean, it seems very obvious to me that the way they're laying this out is these cops are using the Punisher's iconography and they're going out and they're killing people and they're doing untold shady things. I don't know. They got CIs that they're beating up on subway stations. They don't identify themselves as police. When people tell them to stop, I don't know. They're not just being rough with criminals. They're probably running something nefarious under the seams. But
yeah,
the idea that Frank would come out of retirement to start taking retribution on cops
from
because they were killing criminals.
Yeah.
They would have to be like running a drug ring or a human trafficking or something like that to draw the Punisher's ire. If they're wearing Punisher skulls and killing criminals, I don't think the Punisher's going to get all bent up about it. He's not going to care. That's what he does too. So if somebody else kills some criminals, he's not Batman. You know what I'm saying? He's not like, only I can kill maniacs. You can't kill maniacs. He's not that kind of, he doesn't have a code that's that deep. Let's see. We go down here. Hey, Mrs. Nerdchamp, there's Jess. I assumed Hector would die, but damn. Side note, did you know the actor died of CS? Oh, I did not.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Well,
yeah.
Now I feel terrible because I was just talking about how awesome he was and how Disney did him dirty, but it sounds like he actually died. So I did not know that. So bummer.
Yeah. And I feel like
that stinks.
Did they show him? Because they might have just added that after he died. You know what I'm saying? Because it didn't have to be him in that suit.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It seems kind of pivotal to the plot. So
that could have been a big part of the rewrites too. I mean, you never know. That could have been a big part of the rewrites. So yeah. So Cancer in 2023. That's it right there.
December 2023.
So it could have been a big part of the rewrites is the fact that he died. Well, that's a bummer.
Ultimate Spider-Man Disney CD had a white tiger named Ava.
Disney XD. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So what was his niece's name in the show? I didn't even pay attention.
Yeah. Hector,
I don't think they mentioned it. I don't think they mentioned it in the episode, did they? They didn't mention it, but Ava. If it's Ava, we know that that's what they're doing.
I didn't watch a lot of that Disney XD Ultimate Spider-Man show, but I do remember it got Luke Cage and White Tiger in it, right? We're like his pals in that.
Yeah.
It was White Tiger, Nova.
Nova.
And
Nova was in that. That's
yeah,
weird.
Nova was in it.
Nova was
Yeah,
in
it was
I remember
Nova,
there was one more, and I
Hacker,
couldn't remember. What it was.
Spider-Man, and Iron Fist.
That's what it was. Iron Fist.
Yeah, Iron Fist was in it. Yeah, and it was an okay show. It was kind of fun. Okay, we're this far in. Where are we on the show? Like Travis, overall, you haven't been here at all. So, have you been liking the show? Are you still liking the show? Like, what is your episode 1, 2, 3? Where's your meter been moving as you go through this series?
I think it started really high, and not that it's gotten lower, but this episode was a little bit slower, obviously, because you've got a lot of courtroom scenes. But so far, I've liked it. I feel like it's a kind of a natural continuation of the Netflix show, even if it's on jumped on Disney Plus instead of Netflix. I'm hoping that they will bring back some of those other things, like some of those other characters. I'd love to see Luke Cage or Jessica Jones again show up in the MCU officially. But so far, I've enjoyed it. I think it's my only complaint maybe is it's been a little slow as far as Daredevil-esque things, fighting all investigation type stuff. But I feel like maybe at the end of this episode, we're kind of leading up to that. Like, okay, we've kind of rebuilt this world that we haven't had for several years now, and maybe it's about to really kick into high gear. But I mean, overall, I've enjoyed it.
Where are you at now, Tim? Like we were both feeling pretty good through the first 2 episodes. We have trepidation. Where are you at after 3?
I'm still being very cautious. I'm not going to write the series off just yet. What I will say is I'm seeing so far that it's making a lot of the same series mistakes that we've seen before, not just from Marvel, but from Star Wars and from a lot of other things. When you've got a series like this, one of the biggest things that you've got to just nail down is who is the main antagonist, and I just don't think they've done that yet. They have not told us who the main antagonist of the series is. Is it Fisk? Is it Muse? Is it Punisher? Is it this cop network? Is it, I mean, who's it going to be? And is it Bullseye? Is he going to escape? Is it that who was in the Punisher outfit at the end? I don't know. There's all kinds of possibilities there, and they really need to figure it out soon, because after next week, we're halfway through the series. If we don't know who the main antagonist is, that's a big mess. And one of the big problems that I have with a lot of the stuff that's been done previously is that they don't know who the main antagonist is. They haven't even introduced Muse yet. Haven't even introduced him. And that was the one that we were supposed to get in this series. That was the top billed villain. So I'm really confused as to what they're going to do.
Travis, do you have any familiarity with Muse from the comics, or because me and Tim, we've never read a Muse story. We don't know what Muse does or is or anything about it. Have you ever read anything or seen anything with Muse in it?
I don't recall reading anything with Muse in it. Now, I didn't read a lot of Daredevil. I think the most exposure to Daredevil I probably got was when New Avengers came out, and he was kind of at the beginning of that, but then they kind of worked him out and he wasn't in it. I've never read anything that I can recall with Muse in it, and I'm drawing a blank as to that character at all.
So
yeah,
I mean, like, he could tie deeply into the things that are already going on, because he could be a former cop, or we don't know anything about him. So I don't know, maybe he ties into this somehow.
Right.
The only reason that like Tim or anybody else would think that Muse is a major player in this season would be from articles that you read or posts that you saw, because nothing you've seen in these 3 episodes would even hint at the idea that there's some big player outside of what's already been established ready to come in, other than the Punisher's coming because you've seen his emblem for like 2 episodes straight now.
Right.
Muse, like if you hadn't seen that on various ads and things, like you would have no reason to believe that he would even exist in this. So maybe he's got a very small part. I theorized last week that he might have been a major part of the original show they were going to make. He might be a very small part of what this season actually has become.
Maybe he's going to be some kind of setup for a second season.
Yeah, because
unfortunately, that's what Disney has fallen in love with doing, is kind of building a villain through a whole season and kind of introducing them as the main villain the next season. So that's something that they've done before, and I'm not a fan of that.
But I will say I am still enjoying the show. This episode was very much a legal drama, a legal procedural, but it was a well done one. All the acting was good, all the performances were good. The legal angles were interesting. You know, they pulled the stuff out, throwing out that he was White Tiger to get him off. That was all well executed. I mean, I don't want like 6 or 7. I don't want the whole rest of the run to be this. That can't be the whole series.
It'll be disappointing.
You're right. I think they did some of that really well. Even some of the like surprise stuff, like the guy you thought the witness was with the one guy in the back of the van, and the cop pulls him over, and that was all well done. And then he makes it, but then once you're like, okay, man, I'm relieved. He's on the stand. He's gonna, and then he denies it. Like, that was pretty good. You know, some courtroom drama.
Yeah,
I will say that I've exacerbated all of the patience that I have for a courtroom drama in a superhero show. I think I'm done with it. I mean, now look, he's a lawyer. I get it. Lawyers are in court a lot, but I feel like I need this episode is all of that we needed. If they give us more than this, it feels like they're just filling space at that point to me. I don't really think they need it anymore. We can get right back to the superhero stuff and it'll be great.
Yeah,
I've had my fill.
He did tell Hector that he would be surprised how much he doesn't miss being White Tiger, Tim. Did you miss that line where he told him you'd be surprised?
I did not miss that line. I did not miss that line. So yeah.
So that told me that Matt is feeling really good about not being Daredevil. That's just
I really hope this was a cog that leads us to something exciting. Like, okay, we got the courtroom stuff out of the way, and it's opened up whatever's going to happen next.
I see potential of this being very boring or not good.
It's there.
So far, it has been good, but I just don't know.
We reserve the right at any point to say that it's bad. But right now we're not there yet.
Disclaimer.
That's right.
I'm reserving my right to say I told you so. If it ends up being, even though I'm not saying it's been bad, I'm telling you that I'm seeing all kinds of possibilities for how it can be.
I see it too.
We've been at this for a while. So Travis, tell the people where they can find you on the internet.
You can find me at my website at withtravis.com, and I'm also on YouTube at Build with Travis. So come check me out.
Me and Tim are the Nerd Champs. You can see it says right there. Subscribe to @Nerd Champs. We'll see you guys next time.